All right, everybody, welcome back to another Small Business Spotlight. Today I got my good friend Tyrone Robinson with me. Tyrone, thank you for coming on the show today, man. I appreciate it. Talk a little more about your business and who you are and that kind of thing. But for first things first, tell us more about your business. First of all, I told you this before, I love the name of the business, Opportunity to Serve. But tell me more about you and your business and how you serve your clients right now.
Sure. So thanks for giving me the opportunity, Drew. Happy to be here. I actually got started in 2013, almost 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years in June. During that time, I was recognized in the top 1% of all people who did what I did in the industry of mental health. What I was mostly concerned with at that time was helping people with severe mental illness get back to work and school, and really just exceed the amount of success that they would come into me initially projecting that they would have. Long story short, I started to create and develop a number of programs and opportunities for that same cohort of people that reached a lot of regional and national recognition. From there, one of the business owners that I had supplementing some of the curriculum that I created for one of my programs basically made me an offer that sounded like, hey, I've been in business for 16 years. I like what you do here. I'd love being a part of it. Can you help me? I said, sure. We got together maybe a year later or so. We tripled her business the following year. That blossomed my business and took me with having opportunities everywhere from PA to Australia. And from there, business has been going ever since. Initially, that offering was just all operational, really trying to figure out how to get that business owner out of her business so she can scale and grow the business and actually do the things that make the business money versus trying to run the business and do everything herself. So I was responsible for everything that you can really group under people, processes, systems, and technology. And like I said, just being able to fully operationalize and optimize her abilities and skills, create policies, processes, and procedures that allowed us to be more productive and efficient, obviously helped us out. And I was able to do that in a pretty easy and repeatable way all around the country and around the world with the opportunities that came in a similar capacity. Mostly in the organizational and leadership development space.
That's awesome, man. No, that's great. And so what gave you the idea for the name? I mean, like I said, I love that name, and I think that's a great story of what you do. You know what I mean?
Sure. So, like I said, I came from the service industry, serving and supporting people with severe mental illness, working with children with severe disabilities. So it's always been a part of my mentality and my works. However, the story came maybe around 2000 and this is going to be tough. I'm not even going to try to guess, but I'll say this. It was the first investment that I made for myself. And this was, let's just call it 2012, 2013. And, at that time, I had never really invested in myself in a direction toward entrepreneurship. And I was reading a lot, less than I do now, but I was reading a good clip at that time. And I came across a book written by Napoleon Hill called The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons. Mm-hmm. And it was amongst the 3 or 4 books that really created an opportunity in my mind to explore different ways for me to communicate my skills and talents. And I used that book more or less as a blueprint. And I felt like it gave me something that I didn't have. So I was highly appreciative, which led me to looking into the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So once I made that call and did my Google searches, I found Don Green, who is the director of the foundation. And the Napoleon Hill Foundation not only has the writings of Napoleon Hill, but they have several authors like Sharon Lechter and Greg Reed. And it just so happened that while I was doing my research, at the time that I was able to reach out to Mr. Green, he let me know that Greg was having a book release. And at that time, it was a book release event called Stickability. So long story short, I said to myself, you know what, I'm very appreciative of this group of people and their writings. I've read every one of the authors that he mentioned would be at the event. So I went to the event. The event was in La Jolla, California. I stayed at a hotel right on Torrey Pines Golf Course. I had a great time, met a lot of great people, hung out with a lot of great people. Almost every speaker I met personally. We had so many different VIP events and things to participate in. So it was a great time. But I met tons of connections. And just gained tons of experience. And, you know, while I was there, maybe let's just say 20 out of the 25 speakers may have all been talking about service. And I think the theme of every single person was, how can you serve people? And so, you know, during one of my conversations with Chef Bruno, who was also one of the speakers, he runs a restaurant out in Anaheim, California, but he's been recognized as the Person of the Year a couple of times for his efforts with like the Boys and Girls Club and feeding people who can't afford to eat on a consistent basis. He started with pasta, and he still continues that to this day, but his efforts have gained him national recognition. So I say all that to say, while we were talking, this is what we were talking about. How can we give back? What are some opportunities that we can find in our own neighborhoods to really impact or create a change? And longer story short, when I came home on the plane, opportunities and service were the two things that were running around my head. So I just combined them and came back pretty invigorated and ready to start the business. Not necessarily with a high degree of focus, right? You know, opportunities to serve, you don't know what that is. However, it is my disposition. It is the product. You know, I am delivering a service, but I am also the product as the consultant, as the person delivering the services. So when people work with me, they recognize the service ability, probably 1 through 15 before they recognize anything else, honestly. It's always about the customer. It's always about how can I help them, you know, and support them toward their overall objectives and goals.
I love that, man. Yeah, because I mean, we do some similar stuff, and you know, dissimilar but distinct, right? And I think it is about service ultimately, right? I mean, helping those business owners, helping those people to see past their own limitations and then ultimately surpass those. That's
well, you know, that was the transferable part when I was making my transition from mental health industry to business. You know, recognizing that it's the same job. I'm supporting people towards objectives and goals. I'm just using different tools and resources. And, you know, obviously the objectives are different. However, when you're working with business owners and leaders, you have to recognize most of your job, at least for me, is validation. It's increased support, making sure that, you know, every decision has someone else on the other side of it. It's making sure that we're considering all people in the organization. Fortunately for me, with many of the companies that I work with, I've actually hired most of the people, if not all of the people in the company. So when it comes to working with business owners in that capacity and having been more or less their partner without equity, and helping them scale and grow their business through people, talent, and everything else, you know, it just really creates a real opportunity not only to grow with the company, but deliver a kind of support that I don't know that business owner has in any other capacity in their life. You know, when can you just pick up a phone and get something done? When can you just send a quick text message and that person knows exactly what to do? When can you do these things more or less nonverbal from having this extended experience with another person that's always dependable, reliable, and ready to go? You know, so I provide a service that I don't know that you can find in business or just in your life. You know, I'm ready to go. If one of my clients tells me in 15 minutes we have a flight to catch, I'm going to catch the flight. I may ask about it during the flight. Hey, you know, could you give me a heads up? But I'll be on the flight, and that's what people have really come to recognize about me. It's all about the end user. And for me, that's what the job is. Everything else is a bonus.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And so when you're serving people, when you're helping people in their businesses and in their lives, what are some things you're seeing the people dealing with right now? What are the things you help with? Maybe top three things you help business owners deal with right now?
Sure. So, strategy, creating differentiation in their business models, product, services, and offerings. That's obviously a huge piece for every business. However, when we find ourselves in a scenario like we have been over the last year or so, where businesses are more or less, let's just call it consolidating, there stands to be a lot of opportunity to create differentiation. So what I like to help people do is really stand out from their competitors in a clear and focused way that allows them to capture new or uncontested market space or alternative markets and so on. So strategy has been probably the biggest thing that I've been working with people. Outside of that, the regular pieces are always processes, systems, and technology. Those two areas are huge for business owners, especially the smaller businesses that are really trying to figure out how to scale and grow. There's almost never really any written processes. Therefore, it's very hard to scale, and bring people on. So I think a majority of what I've been working on recently outside of strategy is really putting things in place to make sure that we have seamless transitions between each phase of the business, whether it's internal or external operations, rather it's people, rather it's processes, systems, technology. We're always looking to be efficient and optimize as much as possible in every area. And more or less, I will get a call or an email that will have a scenario, and it's just my task to figure it out, and whether that means I'm implementing it as well or training someone else, whatever the case is, I get to have or wear that hat for that business owner. And that's really what I like to do. More or less, I wear the hats in businesses that the business owner can no longer afford to wear or should be wearing.
Yeah. And then a lot of times that like you said earlier, I think you said this before, it's just like they get caught up working in the business as opposed to on it, right? And
Sure.
and if you take that off their plate, allow them to kind of take the step back and take a step up to work on the business, and you enable them to do that. That's powerful, right? I mean,
sure. And oftentimes it's not just about additional time to run the business. It's about additional time to spend with friends and family, go on vacation, do all the things that a leader needs to do to lead best. So there's a lot of things that this job entails. Fortunately, I have been a therapist in my time or counselor. So, I come equipped in a lot of different ways to really support business owners in a unique way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like you said, they definitely, there are times, I had a client today where we were talking about therapy and how the coaching is not therapy, but it's definitely therapeutic, right? So that there's value in that as well. Because
Sure.
as a business owner, it's lonely at the top, right? I mean, who are you going to talk to about your problems, about your issues, right? You're not talking to your employees about it, right? And so it's something where it's like something where you got to take some time and say, okay, who can I talk to about this? And if you have that purpose, that's absolutely great. So as folks look to consider themselves and consider their business and where they're at, what is the point where they're like, okay, you know what, I need to give Tyrone a call. I want to look to hire Tyrone and find out how he can help me. Well, what is that point where business get to?
So operationally, they're going to say something like, I'm wearing too many hats. It's the most common phrase that I hear. Too many hats. If it's not by choice, it's just poor operations, probably. You shouldn't be wearing the hats in your business that you shouldn't be wearing, right? You can figure out how to delegate. You can figure out how to automate. You can figure out some different integration qualities in your technology to help you. But there's no reason for you to be doing every little thing. So more often than not, people are saying, I'm wearing too many hats or I don't have enough time, which again, I equate to operations. The other thing that I hear very common would be, I don't know what to do now or next to my business, or possibly one or a few of my services that were popular at one point are no longer popular or relevant in my business. And I don't know why or how to fix that. More often than not, that's a differentiation conversation. Maybe we figure out some things to do creatively. Maybe we figure out, a number of different ways to approach that problem. But I think the most common strategic issue is I don't know what to do now or next, or I'm just getting started and I want to get started on the best foot. Meaning I want to have a plan or a strategy that's going to allow me to follow it step by step and have some degree of measurable success. And then lastly, I guess if I had to round it with a third, would be people who need websites. That's something that we've been doing for the entirety of the business. So it's something that I don't speak about often, but it's something that we are highly differentiated in a few different ways. One, speed, time. We get sites done usually between 10 and 14 days. We also don't have any additional payment structures after we complete the website. So we'll make sure that we create a website for you that you can take over and take control of and optimize for yourself. So the last thing we want to do is create a long-term customer, which is completely nuts in this industry. But we just want to empower people to take control for themselves and enable them to do that or their team to do that. And then as far as the amount of effort that you need to put into the experience, it's really up to the business owner. We've had opportunities where, we've had 2 sentences about a business and been asked to create more or less a business online on behalf of the business owner. And then we've had scenarios where the business owner has been involved in every single step and provided, every single document that we asked for. So from A to Z, we try to make everything simple as possible. I mean, literally 1, 2, 3, simple. And I think we do a really good job at that. So those are 3 of the most common things.
Cool. That's awesome, man. And so to round out and run out of time a little bit here, but I wanted to ask this last question, give you some time to answer it. But in the course of your career and your business, who are some folks that, or some sources, I should say, whether they're people or things that have influenced you and inspired you in your journey as an entrepreneur,
Sure.
as a career person?
Well, hands down, it's been books and reading. I probably average about 7 or 8 read books a month. So a lot of what I get just comes from a very simple source. I take advantage of the opportunities we have today with audio books or just books on demand in general. And, I make sure I designate a good amount of time every day to feed myself in that way. Find inspiration, find, validation, find everything inside of a book for me. As far as people, I did mention Napoleon Hill as someone that influenced me in business. Malcolm X for me is probably my favorite orator of all time. Those would be 2 people right off the top of my head that I can think of, but more or less the collection of authors and writings that have made a difference for me have come from all walks of life, from all times. I mean, as far back as probably like the 10 Commandments. I'm like into everything. So I'm highly influenced by just reading.
Nice. That's awesome, man. It's fantastic, dude. So if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Email, phone,
Sure.
or website, that kind of thing?
All of the above. Email is tmrii@opportunities2serve.com. The website is opportunities2serve.com or OPP, the number 2s.com. So OPP2s.com. You can find me on social media when it comes to Facebook and LinkedIn under Tyrone Robinson III. You can also find my business pages under opportunities2serve.com, and on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at OPP2s.com.
Awesome. We'll throw that stuff down in the description below on the YouTube video when we publish this. But
Sounds
Tyrone,
good.
Thanks so much, man, for coming on the show. I appreciate it, for sharing your expertise, sharing your story. It's always great to hear different people's stories and the journey to entrepreneurship and to business growth. So folks who want to reach out to Tyrone, please feel free to do that. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. If you like the video, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and feel free to share if you think someone might benefit from Tyrone's services. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care,
Thanks,
Tyrone.
bro.
Thanks again, man.
Have a good night.